welcome to the Capital Discussions OptionVue Education webinar series. I'm Tom Nunemaker with our guest James Hogan from OptionVue. Before we get started, a quick disclaimer: the Capital Discussions is not a broker-dealer or an investment advisor. The presentation is for educational purposes only. We don't know your situation and have no way of knowing the level of risk is appropriate for you. We're not making any specific trade recommendations. The risk of loss in trading options can be substantial, so please be aware of all of your risks prior to placing any trades. And hypothetical computer-simulated trades are believed to be accurately represented. However, actual profit or loss vary, such as liquidity and commissions. And just a reminder, this is for educational purposes only. And I see Jim Graham's here, so I'm also going to make Jim a panelist too, so he can help answer some questions if they come up. And with that, I will turn the ball over to you, James, and welcome back to Capital Discussions. It's nice to see you here.
Oh, thanks, Tom. I appreciate it. I'm glad to be here. Yeah, kind of what I wanted to do today is just kind of go through some new features in OptionVue and basically just kind of show people how I use OptionVue myself.
Okay, great. You can share your screen now.
Yes.
Okay. So make sure you guys are seeing my OptionVue screen here.
I do.
Okay, perfect. Excellent. So we just had a new release come out on Friday here. So we're on version 7.81 right now. And wanted to first kind of show the new earnings feature that we had come out. And it's right here. You would go up here to earnings search and click on that, and it pulls up this earnings search button here. And this was always here before, but it was limited to just 5 business days out into the future. Now we have a little drop-down box here where you can say, I want to find earnings further out into the future. And let's just say I wanted to start, I want to look at everything that's coming out on the 5th or 5 days after. And then I just hit enter after that. And boom, it pulls in all of these things. So now you can, kind of go out there. A lot of people these days are kind of putting on calendars, buying the actual event month and selling beforehand, kind of trying to take advantage of the IV pop there. So this is kind of a nice way to be able to go out ahead and kind of scan for candidates for those kind of trades, or just to see what's coming up down the road. Once you have this list come up, you can actually kind of screen even further and exclude stocks that are priced less than, I have $90 in here, or a DVO, that's dollar volume of options traded, like a 5-day average. And this is in terms of thousands, so that means $200,000 on average are traded a day in options. So once you found some that you like, you can highlight it, and then wherever you are highlighted on your quotes display here, that's where that new symbol will be inserted on your quotes display. Okay. We'll go back to that earnings search here. And now if you wanted to hold down the control button while you're highlighting different things, this is how you'd be able to go through and select different ones. Or if you wanted to select the whole list, you would select this first one here, hold down the shift key, and it'll select everything in that range and insert it over. So this is a new feature. It was something that people that are looking, like I said, way out in the future and wanted to see where earnings are coming out. This is kind of a nice addition. Another important thing, since we're on the topic of looking at earnings here, is I always make sure to tell people to have an earn date here. So, and to insert a column, you could always highlight one of these column headings and hit the insert button on your keyboard. That will add a new one, and then the delete key gets rid of it right away also. But you can always, once you insert it, you can right-click, and it gives you all the options for the different column headings you want to have here. And then the earns date is the one I recommend. And what that does, that gives you a quick, you can easily see when earnings are coming out. BMO is before the market opens. AMC is after the market close. Okay? So that's kind of a tip to have that column heading there.
And that earnings is available for everyone. You don't have to subscribe to the earnings.
Yeah, exactly, Tom. And that's a question I get a lot. I mean, we have an earnings module, and while we're on the topic of the earnings module, I'm just going to show you this really quick. We have, if you go to OptionVue and then go to our trading page here, all of these tools right here are a third off through the end of the year, and you can find out tons of details by clicking on any of these here, and there's videos and descriptions of what they are, but the earnings module, I get this question a lot. People are like, do I have to subscribe to the earnings module to get earnings data or this earnings search or Brian Johnson's, the modeling that we have that anticipates the vol crush? And no, all of those things are included with OptionVue. That modeling and everything like that comes with it. What the earnings module is, it's an algorithm that Len developed, and you can see these tabs down here. These have to do with the earnings module. And what Len is doing is basically every Monday he's running an algorithm that essentially backtest straddles, calendars, or naked straddles against the past 2 years of earnings announcements, and it finds candidates that fit different parameters that you can set up. So that's really what it's doing. And I get another question I get a lot about the earnings module is, how is it done? Well, it's really difficult to say how it's done because it really gives you, depending on your settings, and I'll show you some of the settings that you could do. These are my settings right here. And it really gives you about 70 to 80 candidates per quarter, per earnings season. So there's no way you're going to play them all. It brings your attention to them. And this module works in Backtrader as well, so you could go and backtest some of the results it gives you and things like that. So there's really some people just, I don't trade the echoes myself. I like the prime movers and I like the runners. Some people only trade non-movers. So, depending on your style of trading, and earnings plays, what type of earnings plays you like to do, it's all gonna, the results are all gonna vary depending on someone's preference of trading and how much capital you're working with. I mean, someone, for instance, I do some non-movers sometimes, but I will do calendars versus some people will do naked straddles. Now, it's a lot more capital is required to do naked straddles, which is why I prefer calendars. So, but yeah, I'm glad that you asked that so I can clarify for that. But anybody that has any subscription to OptionVue is going to have access to the earnings search and then the modeling that's required to analyze the volatility crush that's going to happen after the announcement. So that is the earnings module I touched on there. I also wanted to, I put a couple trades on here before the recording here so I could just kind of show you how this works. This arrow is always going to be here, and it brings you down to the trades that you have here. But what I really wanted to show is that you can isolate trades by highlighting the specific contract heading here. Okay, so you'll see that everything's changing. My summary section down here, all these are changing because I'm just isolating this butterfly I have in February, then the butterfly I have in January, and then this debit spread I have here in January, the weekly 4. Okay, so what you can do is not only can you isolate those, but I'm going to hold down the control button, and now I can isolate January and the weekly 4 if I want to, or I can highlight this one. So, and you can analyze these just the same. So if I wanted to analyze, just this front butterfly I have on right here, you could look at it like that. Okay, now I can add this one in, and I can analyze it. Okay, and then it's saving everything that I'm looking at, so you can start superimposing things over each other if you want to as well. And then this deletes anything that you've looked at if you want to clear it out. Okay, the other neat thing, then you can, of course, analyze everything together. The other thing I wanted to kind of show, this is kind of newer, I might have talked about in the last webinar we did, but you can actually click on this option section here. And now I'm just looking at the call side of my position. Okay, and then if I click on this again, now I'm just looking at the put side of it. Okay, so that's kind of newer, a newer feature there. And then I can go back to looking at everything that I have there. Okay, so I kind of wanted to show that. So it's really nice that, you know, we're constantly adding things here to try to enable people to analyze and isolate portions of complex positions so that you can look at them, you know, separately, together, adding adjustments to really be able to, you know, kind of enhance the different views you can get of your potential positions or existing positions or potential adjustments. I don't have my chat box open, so I just want to see if there's any questions. Doesn't look like there's any yet. The other thing I wanted to, if there's any questions or anything anybody wants me to look at, let me know. But I wanted to kind of talk about OpScan for a second, because there is, I'm getting a lot of people interested in OpScan lately, and we're always helping people over here. Once they get OpScan, let me just show you real quick the parameter guide. You can totally create your own formulas in OpScan. We have a Schedule A, which is just underlying specific parameters that you can dial up in the scanner, and then Schedule B is our option specific. Over the years, I've collected a ton of formulas for different things people are looking for. So if you have an idea for a scan, chances are I have something to start working off of as far as the formula goes, and then we're always helping people dial them in further. But this is basically our parameter guide here, and you know, I'd be happy to email it to anybody that gives a call in and wants to see it. But what I was going to do is I was going to run a little formula that I have here that I look at this one a lot. And basically what this is looking for, it's looking for a horizontal skew. Okay, normally you have, you know, low IV going to high as you go further out in time. Well, this is kind of looking for that, you know, where you have more premium in the front months than you do further out. And they're great candidates for calendars. I tend to lean towards horizontals and calendars more in my trading myself. So I'm going to go ahead and hit go on this one. Now, first thing when you're looking at OpScan is to make sure, these are all the formulas I have, but to make sure you deselect all. You don't want to run two formulas together. I'm going to hit this one, my horizontal skew 1 versus 2, and I hit go. And it's going to pull up, and it saves all your scans by date for you here. And then I double-click on this one. And so what this is showing me now, you can see I'm looking at the last U. That means the underline has to be greater than 10. And these are all things that you can change yourself if you wanted to. I mean, if you wanted the last underline to be $30 or higher, you would just change that. Okay? And it's sorted by IV1 versus IV2. And you can see it's listing this out here right now. It's giving me the symbol, the company name, where the underline traded last, total volume, and then you can see the first month, second month, and third month, what the IVs are. Okay, this is another important thing of why you have the earn date column in your quotes display, because as you start looking at these, that's the first thing I would look at is say, hey, is there earnings coming out on this? And is that why there's a skew going on here? But you can see right now there's an IV of 117 in the first month. Then it goes to 76. Doesn't look like I have data for this one right here. But then you can see what the skews are going across the board here. So let's see if we can take a look at one here. Let's look at this one. And then I'm going to insert it. Okay, and then I'm going to close this and close this. I have it up here because that was highlighted on the rut. And what I'm doing is I just clicked on the symbol and I'm dragging it down. You can always drag and move symbols around here. So FMI, well, now what I would do right away when I looked at this is I'm not seeing an earnings date coming up. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll go over here and click on news. Okay, and what I did is I have my news set up to come to Benzinga here, and then it comes over here and it tells me, okay, there is an expected earnings date. Looks like it's out on February 23rd. Okay, interesting. So, and then what I'll do also is I come down here and I just want to look through and find out what news is going on and things like that. Now, the default for OptionVue's news site, I believe, is MarketWatch. No, I think it's Yahoo right now. What you can do is you can go to File, Preferences, Okay, and then I go to quotes display, and let me see, that was not it.
There's one new.
There it is. That's what it is. And this is what you would do. You could basically just, your favorite news site. And basically, I copied where it usually asks for this. It says type in a symbol on your favorite news site. And I copy that area and drop it right in here. And then it'll take your symbol. It automatically plugs it in there for you and opens up to that news site's information page for that symbol. Okay, so then, that's how I would kind of dive in and start, looking at what kind of a trade I wanted to do. So now I'm going to dive into the FIM here and take a look at possibly doing a calendar here. And you can see you got high IV here. This is definitely not where earnings is going to be taking place. It doesn't trade weekly, so it's likely going to, the event's going to happen here. So let's just say I wanted to do this and then analyze this. And you can see it gives you really nice candidates and really wide trades because there's so much premium up front. And the thing to be remember, and I always tell people this, when a trade looks really awesome or too good to be true, it usually is, but sometimes there's news out there or when you're looking at medical companies or pharmaceuticals or biotechs especially, there's usually something coming up that's news related or an FDA approval or something like that that's driving the premium higher in the front months. So just something to be leery of, but also great potential trades for taking advantage of that higher premium you can sell in the very front. Okay. Another question I get often is, if my trades look horrible, I can't, when they first get OptionVue. This is a big thing too to remember is that I have slippage set to none right now. This is a very conservative setting. I usually don't recommend it, but this is going to give you a picture of what this trade would look like. You can see how much more it's costing me when I have slippage set to moderate. Okay. So basically that's saying that, there's some large bid-ask spreads in these options here, and you can find that out. I'm just going to double-click right here on this line. And it's going to tell you right now, you can see there's a 75% spread there. Okay, so in order to get the trade that I initially analyzed, you'd have to really, probably work that order to try to get the market price for it. Okay, and you can see there's probably the same type of a spread here. Okay. So once, I'm going to switch my modeling back to none, and then if I could, I wouldn't put this trade on if I'm going to get this price for it, of course, but I would try to fight for it if you wanted to get that on. The other thing I would do is after I look at that trade, I would then go to a price chart, see where this thing is traded in the past. I see some big gaps here. That's obviously a news event. See where earnings, these little triangles are showing me where earnings are. Okay. And with that calendar I have on, you can then click on your little profit and loss, little boomerang I call this here, and it shows where your profit zone is and where your loss zone is here. Okay. So that's kind of how I would use OpScan and then go look at some news, look at a price chart, analyze a potential trade that I was looking at. Okay, and I just went over here. I just cleared that trade out, and back to the quotes display here. I thought I saw Susan had a question. Yeah.
OpScan repository for people to share OpScan formulas. People share scans, all the time with each other. It's not a big deal at all. Really. Like I said, I've developed some formulas for people. I'll usually share some of those formulas if they have a similar interest or want to take a look at something that's similar. Let me go back to my OpScan so I can kind of give you an example of that. You can see some names in here. These are things that I helped some people develop. Steve's got non-directional candidates. Some people are looking for anomalies out there or spikes in open interest.
That's been a popular one over the years. I know that we've had some requests. I think right now you can only go back like 5 days and looking at open interest changes. But we want to try to we have all that data, so we want to be able to access that for longer periods of time to say, what's the average open interest on calls over this period of time, and scan for a spike in anything that trades at, underlying is trading at this. There's a dollar volume options traded of this, and that open interest is spiked on either the call side or the put side by, whatever percentage of that average. So it draws your attention to things where, maybe insiders know something and are getting some long or short, depending on, whether they're going long with puts or calls there. So really neat ways to exploit basically the database of data that we've been collecting with OpScan.
Very good. We did have a question from Susan. I don't know if you want to open up the chat. Maybe it's easier for you to read it.
Next projected data. I'm reading it right now. Yeah, I've gotten this as well sometimes. So let's take a look at it. We'll just go ahead and put that calendar back on again and we'll see if we can use this example. So what happens a lot is when people are looking at calendars is that it's only going to give you the max projection of your short leg because that's going to be expiring, for instance, on January 16th. Okay, you can project farther. I'm going to go up to 5 lines here. Okay, you can always change these dates here, but it's going to show you the farthest date, which is the expiration of that. Let me see. Jim's saying something here.
Oh, she just put it to host and presenters. So let me just paste to everybody.
Yeah, that way Jim can help with that too, stuff like that too. But so I've gotten this a lot where people say, hey, I want to project that these options are perhaps going to expire worthless. So what you can do is I can change this up here. And let's see, let's just do 125. And it's going to give me a warning here. Projecting beyond the options expiration. Okay, so what you're going to be doing is you're going to, take into account that these are going to expire. Include expiring options in analysis and say yes. So basically it's showing you that, you can go further out and it's going to show you this is where you're going to be at if price stays where it's at and that those expire worthless. Okay, I hope that helps. But that's why OptionVue does that. It's because when you're modeling calendars, it's really not wanting to project past, an expiration of something in that position.
And I guess one of the suggestions in her question was to add a calendar, so like a date picker on that max projected date.
Oh, absolutely. No, you know what? That's been something that I know has been on Len's radar of things to do in a number of different spots. I don't think it's that difficult to do. I just think, for instance, in Trade Finder, where you have a date, there's going to be a little calendar button there. Anywhere you see date, basically, there'll be a little calendar date, so you can click on it, and then it pulls up that little calendar window, and you can scroll through months or scroll through and click on the actual day. So that's definitely on the list of enhancements that we should see sooner than later.
One thing, if you go back to the analyze chart, Len added something in a couple months ago. I asked them for, if you right-click on right there, on the T plus N days, you can actually change any of the dates, the expiration or the earliest date. So one thing I do on the earliest date, I just do T1, and that shows me the standard deviations for tomorrow, like 1 and 2 standard deviations.
Right. Yep. So and I'm on expiration. That's why we don't see anything right now or today, basically. But if I go, out further, you start to see those deviations there. Some people have, just so if people are looking at this and they see dates, I believe standard trials, it comes with the T plus numbers. That's another preference thing where you can come up here and see preferences, and you go to graphic analysis, and if you want to see dates or T plus N, that's important too. The other thing, and it's funny how everybody has preferences, but I like whenever I open up a graphic analysis that I'm looking at today right now, whereas it's defaulted to show you expiration when you first open it. So when you first open a matrix, if you're on a trial or you just got OptionVue and you haven't changed that setting, everything down here is going to be zeros basically because you're looking at expiration. There's no changes in the Greeks anymore or anything like that because you're highlighted on expiration. So again, to change those settings, you can go to Preferences and then T+0 to start and display dates. Another thing that while I'm in this Preferences section is the Volti chart. Okay, a lot of people, I get questions, about the volatility chart when they're looking at percentiles. I come in here and I like to look at a 2-year percentile. And what that is doing, and let's close out of here and go back to, and just look at a Volti chart. Get a daily, I'm going to put the price chart over it. Okay, so what's happening is you're seeing these percentiles. Okay, so currently, based on a 2-year chart, statistical volatility is in the 93rd percentile and IV is in the 90th percentile. Okay, so that means, basically it's pretty high relative to where it's been over the last 2 years. If you don't have that 2 years in there, anytime you pull up a volatility chart and you look and see what these percentiles are, it's pulling the percentiles based on the life of the chart that you have. Okay, so my chart actually goes back, looks like options just started trading. This is a good way to tell when options started trading here in February of 14. But and we can go and look at something else really quick here as well. Let's just look at Priceline. Okay, so you can see where SV and IV is for here. Now my chart for Priceline is going to go back pretty far, but the percentiles that I'm using are only based on the last 2 years from today, basically. If you didn't have that set up, it's going to be looking at the entire chart history that you have, and that's where those, IV numbers will vary if you're looking at something I'm showing you on a volatility chart or versus something you have set up. So that's just something I wanted to point out. I do get questions about that often, and the wand here, I'm going to pull up by just left-clicking on the chart, and you can see down at the very bottom center all the details about that particular day and where the SV is and IV is and the percentile on that particular day.
Now, that percentile just for that look-back period or the last year?
That percentile period, based, and this is how you would look at it, it's based on my 2-year period that I have set up here.
Okay.
So otherwise, it would be based, if I didn't have this in here and just left it blank, it would be looking at the IV percentile over the entire history of that chart that I have defined. And you can, define your chart as well by how much data you want to have in it. You can come up here and say refresh data to this point. Also, you can adjust for splits here if you want to do that as well. You can set up targets in here. Also, this little button down here, which is kind of neat, will pull in more volatility information. Okay, so basically what this is doing is it's pulling in, let me try to find the legend for this. So this V button right here, this pulls in averages of IV of where they've been over these time frames here and what the average implied and statistical has been as well. Okay, so now I clicked on the chart over here and it's pulling up this volatility cone for us, and it's a 3-year volatility cone and showing us where it is at, and then it's showing you the cone. So a lot of information you can dive into, and you can click on these different lines and it'll show you the cones changes for these different time frames here. Okay. It's so interesting when we do these walkthroughs or these presentations, how you can just start diving in and talking about different things. There's so much built into OptionVue to talk about. Let's see what else. We covered OpScan. Survey is basically a scanner that pulls directly from our price charts and volatility charts. If you want to scan our whole world of stocks and ETFs and find the 50 stocks with the highest implied volatility, and here's a drop down. So you can pick them and then sort them by, say, greatest dollar volume of options traded. I can set my minimum price. Percentile uses up to 1 year of history. Okay, and a minimum DVO means there's at least $200,000 worth of options traded on average here. And then I hit go, and it pulls up these 1 year percentiles now where things are at right now, IV and SV. Okay, so another way to kind of look for different things you want to maybe sell premium on, or you can do a ratio of it. Say highest IV, so you have high IV and low SV. Okay, and one cool thing, Asher, that's you can click on here is you can highlight this and then pull up a price chart right away. Okay, and let me pull this M off. And what you can do now is you can use these buttons to scroll through the list that I have on survey. And so you can see the characteristics that it's looking for. It's looking for, a low SV and a high IV. So it's kind of a nice way to, if you're interested in something that's trading like this right now, it's got a lot of implied volatility, and then now you can go and screen through those and look for, a price chart or a charting pattern setup that you might be interested in. Again, just like in that earnings search we were looking for before, same thing applies where you can insert symbols here or hold down the control key and click on a couple different ones if you wanted to throw them into your quotes display to dive in further and look at some option chains and then analyze some trades.
And just so people realize that survey, you don't have to pay extra for that. That's for everyone, right?
Correct, yeah. The only add-on, that we're looking at today is OpScan. That's the add-on. Trade Finder survey, the earnings search that we looked at the very beginning, that's all included in OptionVue. Any modeling, let me just try to model something here that's got earnings coming up. I think that Amgen, Celgene, they both have weeklies, I believe. Yes, they do. Okay, so we'll put on a little earnings play here so we can see what it would look like. But, just at first glance, when you're looking at, a chart here, you can often find, where the earnings are going to be. You can, because there'll be a higher implied volatility out here. Let me see what was it, 23rd? 25th. Okay. So you can see IV starts picking up around here versus what these are at here. So I'm just going to put a calendar on here so you can see how the modeling is taking into account what would happen. So we've got the volatility change, which would be minus 3.8 from where it's at right now. The expected event date is modeled at T plus 36, so that's OptionVue is already highlighting the earnings announcement here. Okay, we're pretty far out still, but these diamonds would reflect what the at the money straddle is saying the move is going to be right now. Okay, so this is automatically using the Johnson model and taking into account the volatility crush that's going to happen on this earnings announcement day. Okay, and that's all included in OptionVue.
Dave Stewart had a funny question. He said the crude oil's at an 11-year low. Can OptionVue tell us when it will bottom? That'd be a great feature.
It's interesting because that one comes up a lot in survey right now. You can do these kind of scans as well. Future-based assets, highest implied volatility currently, and we'll go on this one. You can see where and we're looking at 1 year again. So S&P is actually pretty high up there right now in the percentile based over the relative to the past year that we're looking at. And crude looks like we've got some bad data coming in there for some reason, because that's definitely not the case. We look at of course, we look at a price chart and a Volti chart. Okay, so it might have peaked a little bit. Now it's kind of settling and coming down a little bit there. But yeah, as far as this comes up, it's still coming up pretty high, but it looks like it should be higher. This percentage should definitely be higher, I think. But yeah, you can do the same scans for futures as well, which is kind of nice. Everybody that has, a basic subscription to OptionVue will have access to all of our historical data and delayed futures data throughout the day as well. So if you ever want to look at futures, you could, and I'm glad I'm saying this because I wanted to talk about this too, is you could come up to NetView, go to BackTrader, and any futures that you want to look at, you can look at 30 minutes delayed throughout the day, and you can run scans on them as well. Trade Finder survey, if you had OpScan, it will look and isolate futures trades as well. What I want to talk about is people that do some back tests, and I know that they're working on it here to be able to have a file that people can actually call in, and one of the tech support guys would be able to, have you download it. I believe they're working on the Russell, the SPX right now, but I know there's a lot of people out there doing back testing, and, check with us about that. It's a lot easier than collecting it, but what I wanted to show you is that you can collect BackTrader data. So if you want to do a back test on crude oil and test a strategy out, saying a year and a half, 2 years you wanted to do it, you would first go into a crude matrix. Okay, let's do that first. So let's just say I'm going to go to close out of here and go to my futures tab so we can look at, actually I think I have crude right here. I would come into my crude matrix and make sure I had it defined how I would trade it or how I would back test it. Okay, so if I didn't want to have weeklies, I would say only display, let's say I want to just look at 5-point strikes. I don't want to look at weeklies. Make sure you want to have the in the money range and out of the money range defined how you prefer. Okay, so let's say I wanted to define, and this is how I'm going to want to have my matrix set up. I'm only going to trade monthlies in this one. Then I would go to NetView. Then I would go to collect BackTrader data and say, I'm going to collect BackTrader from January 1st, 2013. Oh, did I do that wrong? And then I'm going to do it to December 1st this year. Okay, you can look at end of day only, or I want to look at every half an hour interval. That's what I want to do. Overwrite all existing data. And what that's going to do, and you want to do this over the weekend or after hours in the evening, because you're going to want to say go and then walk away from your computer for a while or let it go in the background, because it might take, depending on how much data you're asking for, it could take, half an hour, it could take an hour, 45 minutes, 15 minutes, but it's going to be something you're going to want to let run in the background. Because it's going to grab it all from our server, store it locally, and that way when you step through time, when you're back testing, it's going to be like instantaneous. Versus every time you step through a date, if you don't have this data collected, it has to stop, go to our servers, grab it, pull it back in, and it gets kind of tedious doing it that way. So this is kind of a nice way, if you know ahead of time what you're going to back test, to go ahead and store it locally.
So yeah, if you have some of those files on the popular, like SPX, Russell, whatever, that we could download, that would greatly speed up that back data.
Yep, exactly. I believe we have the RUT already. This is just like in the past week or two that they started doing this, and I believe they have it already. If you're interested in getting your hands on that, give a call into our tech support. And I believe what happens is Ken remotes in to your OptionVue and drops the file in your OptionVue program for you, and then boom, you have it. You wouldn't have to download data or anything like that.
Especially for SPX, which has so many strikes and expirations.
I don't remember if it was SPX or RUT that they just did, but they just did one of them, and in their process of gathering the other one and getting it available as well. So, and I'm sure they'll keep doing that too. I mean, as people request it, I think the E-mini is going to be another one that's really popular that people want to get their hands on as well.
And then if you could get a copy for people to download, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah, and that's what I think that why they're doing it is because everybody's always asking about the indexes and they want to back test them. So why not make that readily available for them? And it takes some of the burden off our servers as well.
Yeah, it's a win-win for everybody.
Yeah. So I pretty much covered everything I wanted to talk about, unless there's some other questions out there anybody wants.
Just a question on futures. I know they trade outside of normal equity market hours. The backtrader data for futures is only during the regular market hours?
That's correct, yes. But if you had our real-time data, they are updating throughout the, if you had QuoteView, for instance, our real-time data service, and you subscribe to the NYMEX, you'll see those prices changing throughout the day and evening and early morning hours.
And my friend Ricardo, who's your rep for, I think, South America and Europe, was mentioning something about some of the Euro, like the Euro Stocks 50 or maybe the DAX. Are you guys putting some of those into OptionVue?
Yeah, the DAX I don't get a lot of questions about it, but I believe the DAX is available now, or they were working on it. And let me see what I have as far as currencies. These are the currencies that I have. These are all suspended right now, but if I pop them on, they all turn into live here. Yeah, if you're interested in getting the DAX or looking at it, I'm pretty sure that we have it, but I'd have to double check for anybody that's really interested in that to make sure that's coming in okay.
Yeah, I know those two indexes are pretty heavily traded, so a lot of people would be interested in those.
Okay, here's Jim coming back. We do have the DAX, but you have to have IB data coming in to get it currently.
You know what symbol you would type in to get that? Just $DAX or something else?
I'm waiting to see if Jim throws it up there. Yeah, Jim's going to have to check my support on that one.
Okay, and maybe another question from Andrew. Can you talk about the best way to keep OptionVue backed up?
Sure. I mean, you can schedule a backup. Okay. People usually do this. You could do it manually. You could say, do it right now before you close for the day, or you can have it scheduled. Here, you can say, do it every trading day, whatever trading day you want to have it set up at, and then it'll store a backup file for you. And again, that was under File in the upper left here, and Backup Key Files. And this is a little scheduler here. You can do it. That way it's, you can do it right before the close. If you want to do it manually every day, you can have it set up to do that, do it for you.
Is there a restore feature? Like, say you're installing OptionVue on a new computer and you want to set everything else up the way you had it on your old one? Yeah,
and there's a couple ways to do that. And let me go back to OptionVue here for a second. There is a couple ways you can do this. These days, people are using Google Drive to keep things in sync, or Dropbox. Here's how to set that up. If you did something like this, where you had OptionVue set up this way, it's always going to be stored in the cloud. Your OptionVue settings and account records and things like that. This is I went to let me go back again. I went to OptionVue. I went to support. I grab a lot of videos and send these all the time. I clicked on helpful how-tos and then how-tos again over here. And when you see a lot of this is done by Jeremy here, how to transfer records from one computer to another. And back in the day, it used to be a big deal, but I mean, this day and age with, the computer memories and being able to email things, is light years from what it was. You could actually, really kind of email the whole entire OptionVue system to yourself and be able to open it again on your new computer if you wanted to. So a lot of the old-fashioned way, and people still do this a lot, is a thumb drive. You could basically drop, your entire OptionVue folder right into a thumb drive, and then you would go ahead and then just pop that into your new computer and open it up, and it's like you didn't skip a beat, because all of those settings and records, account history, any work you've done, backtesting work you've done, will all be transferred right over. But this is a great place to come in. All these videos are really short. They're a few minutes long, and it's showing you how to do different, more technical things.
And Jim popped in the YouTube link and the Facebook link, so thanks, Jim.
Yeah, we're always available here too. If anybody has questions or want to dive into any particular portion of OptionVue or feature, we've got some really nice remote support software built into OptionVue now. So basically, if you were talking to myself or Jeff or Karen or anybody here, tech support, they would say go to help, and then open remote support. Basically, a little window pops open on your end, and you would give us the your little computer ID, and then we could look over your shoulder and give you a walkthrough or any assistance you need with any part of OptionVue.
Well, great. I think we've run out of questions, so unless there's anything else, probably a good place to wrap it up for the year, and wish everybody a happy holiday season and a good New Year's.
Yep, absolutely. A great 2016 coming our way, that's for sure. And then, again, you can always, find out, all of our information and videos and things like that. Again, these trading tools I was kind of talking about is where you can learn more about OpScan there. But I said before, we have a third off of any of these if you were interested in it. And we're always here available if you have any questions.
Yeah, and if you get it before the end of the year, you can write it off this year's taxes instead of next year. So another bonus.
Yep, exactly.
All right, so thanks again, James. Really appreciate it, and have a good holiday, everyone, and we will see you next month for the next edition of OptionVue Education Webinar Series.
Sounds good. Thanks, Tom. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.